We got the story from CNN. It's from a couple days ago. California bans most law enforcement officers from wearing masks during operations. California became the first state to ban most law enforcement officers, including federal immigration agents, from covering their faces while conducting official business under a bill that was signed Saturday by Governor Gavin Newsom and swiftly denounced by Trump administration officials. The ban is a direct response to recent immigration raids in L.A., where federal agents wore masks while making mass arrests. The raids prompted days of protests and led Trump to deploy National Guard troops and Marines. Okay, so here's the question. Law enforcement being dispatched to California is now being it is forbidden for them to wear masks while conducting federal law enforcement. Do you believe the government of California will enforce this law against federal law enforcement?
I don't see that happening.
I don't think they have.
That's a big line. I
don't think they have
a big line to cross.
They don't have a mechanism. I mean, like we saw in the '60s, something somewhat similar in the civil rights era, where the feds cracked down on states for not playing ball, and then the federal government won.
But that's vice versa. Feds cracking down on states. This is a state trying to crack down on feds.
So that's a no from Raymond.
Yes, sir.
What do you think, Phil? Will you think Gavin Newsom will have state troopers go and arrest ICE for wearing masks?
I don't think he will. I think that he'll posture. But I don't think that he'll actually dispatch.
I think that's the line.
Yeah,
that's a big
100%.
If Gavin Newsom arrests federal law enforcement, we are in new territory.
That's 100% the line. Yeah.
I think the struggle we have with the concept of civil war is no one knows when you're in a civil war. Throughout history, every single civil war, they have always argued and debated whether or not they were actually in a conflict. Yeah. And as we bring up famously, we historically look back at Fort Sumter as the beginning of the American Civil War. But the people who lived in the country at the time didn't even think we were in one and went and picnicked at the first Battle of Bull Run because they didn't think a civil war was happening. And then the Confederates won, routed the North, sent them packing, and then thought the war ended. They said, that's it, no war. We've just shown them. And then Lincoln was like, nah, send in the troops. And then 4 other states were like, oh my God, this is getting crazy. What's going on? Took a long time. The first 7 states to secede from the Union happened before Abraham Lincoln was even president. Several months. So I don't know that we'll actually know until we're well into it. In fact, I believe they called it, what do they call it? First, it was like a rebellion in the South. Then it was called a conflict between states. And then I think it was like a year later, or a year or two, they started calling it the Civil War in the United States.
I mean, it is reasonable to say that it's possible, like right now, like looking back, they'll say that now was the beginning of it. That the assassinations, that the first shots that were fired were actually people assassinating other people and taking shots at law enforcement and stuff like that.
I mean, take a look at this rock from the hill.
But
who wants to read that headline?
Charlie Kirk's murder could become another Fort Sumter. The fact that this is something that the respectable journalists are talking about now, The Hill, which is absolutely legacy media, to call this, far-fetched now with all of these attacks on ICE facilities, with the attempts on Trump, with the murder, this is no longer far-fetched. This is no longer the stuff of a fever.
Can I cash out like a 50-leg parlay or something on this one? Because I'm going back 7 years on this, boys.
I mean, I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate here. I think that a lot of these legacy media are coming out with these very sensationalist headlines because they are losing to independent media and they can't keep up. That people aren't interested in clicking some like really kind of like boring white bread sort of headlines anymore. Like everybody's so sort of brain rotted from the scrolling, everything sensationalized, World War III every other week, that they kind of have been pushed towards this more radical discourse. But the knock-on effects of reading stuff like that are very real. Right? It does put it in people's heads.
It's true, but if there weren't so many people that have died, there weren't so many attacks. There were 4 ICE facilities attacked since August 1st. I think actually in the past 3 weeks.
Right.
So
4? No. It's been like... It's like 3 attacks in 3 months. I'm pretty sure.
I Googled it last night when I did the intro, and it was 4. I did it on Grok, and it was 4 ICE facilities attacked since August 1st is what I checked. I asked how many ICE facilities had been attacked. So yeah, like whether or not there were people killed, not all of them had casualties, but there were 4 ICE attacks or 4 ICE facilities attacked since August 1st. So in the past 2 months, like. You have Charlie Kirk that was murdered. You have Donald Trump that was the assassination attempt that was just over a year ago. Then there was you can say that the attacks. I don't think that the attack, the murder of the Minnesota lawmaker was actually politically motivated, but there are people that'll swear up and down that it was. This is something that is not like unusual at this point in time. Like this is something that is become almost commonplace. Just, I mean, people are waking up saying, "Hey, am I gonna find out that there was another political murder in the country?"
Yeah, I mean, even like the Epstein stuff with like the lawyers disappearing and like dying and these suicides. I think like it has become a lot more of a violent political atmosphere in America.
Yeah, I mean, there's
It's
always
become normalized to it. You're not surprised now. Like if I saw another assassination, I don't think I'm going to have the same reaction that I did to Charlie Kirk's. I'm somewhat expectant that seeing the level of praise that it's had from the left, that someone is going to do a copycat attack because they're going to hit that sort of like cult status.
So we've got a half correction. It's actually pretty wild that we can't and don't cover every story because if it doesn't reach, it doesn't bubble up, we don't know.
Yeah.
But on August 29th, a person attempted to run over a CBP agent. We've got and August 25th was bomb threats to a Dallas ICE facility. If you're talking about the ambushes, then it's 3 in like 3 months. If you're talking about everything from death threats to riots, it's 5. No, it's 4. It's 4. So, and I guess CBP doesn't really count. So it's 3 since August 1st, broad. And then violent attacks like rifle long range, those terror attacks, I think it's 3 in 3 months.
Yeah, on June 29th, when they got the 20-year-old set the fire and he killed the fireman. He killed the chief of police and John Morrison.
Where was it?
Clanfield Mountain, Texas, I believe. It was,
that's not
you guys
ICE.
talked about it.
Yeah.
No, it's not ICE, but I'm saying they set up ambushes, more violent.
There was the Zizian assassination of the CBP guy earlier this year. Yeah, it's been pretty dang wild. So we're definitely in Bleeding Kansas. Isn't it kind of funny to say, like, hey, guys, Bleeding Kansas confirmed. Yesterday on the Will Kane show, they opened by calling this Bloody September. I think Jack Posobiec was the first person I saw who called it Bloody September. And I agree. The reason why we say Bloody September is it condenses all of the ideas of the attacks into a single phrase, which can invoke that knowledge. It's a zip file for memory. That's why we give things names.
Do you think that like the economic fallout of something like this escalating though is going to be far too great? I mean, the thing that people care about the most is ultimately, do I have a good standard of living?
if there is a
You think that like here just have that sort of political climate? Because I mean, when you look at
There's no kids.
There's no kids.
The Gen Alpha is half the size of Millennial and Gen Z. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. But is that on the conservative side though? Because I've never seen as many young families of like guys in their 20s, married, kids, highly Christian.
Yeah. But even with that trend among Gen Z, Gen Alpha is 40 million. Estimates from 40 to 42 million. That is half the size of millennials. And Gen, I think they're calling it Gen Bravo because nobody likes beta, is just starting now. Meaning our economy is fried no matter what we do. When you and you now have a large cohort of young, single, childless men.
On which side though?
On both sides. Now it's less likely. I think a third of Gen Z men are leaning right, but either way, like Gen Z men largely are not having relationships and having kids. Look, I was supposed to have a kid in my 20s. That's human standard. That's what all humans have. But I turned, how old was I? 22 or 23 when the financial crisis happened. Yeah. So sleeping on couches, I didn't even realize at the time something was wrong. I lived with like 9 dudes, a bunch of college-age dudes in this massive loft where we all spent a couple $100s because it was cheap. And it was like 6 bedrooms, and I was in the pantry. Pantry was nice. It had a door to the kitchen and a door to the living room. Nice. And it was, I think, probably 6 by 8. No. It was probably 8 by 10. Not bad.
It's a huge pantry.
Oh, yeah. Walk in, 2 doors, put some curtains up. It was pretty cool. When we have parties, I would put shelves at the doors, and I'd sell booze. Nice. But anyway, I was supposed to be working a job and having a family, but that was impossible.
Yeah.
And so even right now, Gen Z guys aren't doing this. Rudyard Lynch talked about this. I don't know. You were talking to him earlier. I don't know if you brought it up, but historically, whenever you get a large population of young men without children, you get war.
Yeah, that's true.
And then AI is going to take away all their jobs here in 10 years, 5 years.
They cooked.
Yeah.
We cooked.
Yeah, the one saving
We'll be alive.
The one saving grace is that young. It's not a saving grace. It's actually a very sad thing. But young men's like hormones are completely nuked. So a lot of them don't even have the testosterone required to like sign up for like a full blown civil war. You're just gonna get insurgents from the left. That's all you're gonna get. The right wing guys are actually like healthy.
The one
think
thing
it
that
was
I'm really
impressive
surprised that, well, the one thing that I think we should expect as things escalate would be like more bombings, because that was something that was really common in the 70s, in the early 70s, late 60s, the weathermen and stuff. There were over 1,000 bombings between 1970 and 1972.
Wow.
And that's something that hasn't taken, you haven't seen a lot of, thankfully. But as tensions rise, and you have people that aren't as suicidal, looking to harm their political opponents, that's the kind of thing that I think we need to be concerned with as like the next level. If that does start becoming something that's common, then that I feel like that's the next escalation, or would be looked at as the next escalation.
The reason we're not seeing it is there's 3 reasons. The first is it requires coordination to some degree. I know there's obviously lone wolves over the years, but it requires a degree of coordination with others. 2 is people are like not smart enough to assemble these. I mean, I know you can like follow directions online and stuff, but there's actually a lot of stories of people like blowing them up in their house.
You can ask ChatGPT.
I know that, but I'm saying people like are blowing themselves in houses. It's like if you look it up, it happens somewhat frequently. And then the third is that the government's actually done a pretty good job of making it difficult to collect the materials you would need to put together a bomb.
Yeah, that's one thing that
70s.
I think is a good point. The base materials to do this stuff, like the government is actually watching for people that purchase certain things in order or whatever. So that might be why.
The fourth would be, to your points, would be, and to Phil's point, that they are more suicidal, unfortunately, nowadays than they were back in the day. Back in the 60s or 70s, you were saying they probably had more reasons to live, but nowadays they're sitting in their house all by themselves in the bedrooms on 4chan, on Reddit, and so their mental health is way worse.
It's a bit grim, but someone made an important. This is an important distinction. Is typically a shooter is planning on not making it out of the operation versus a bomber. They're planning to go on the run. And there's gonna be a manhunt to find them. So that's the kind of the distinction. Is you're dealing with a death cult, and ultimately they just want to get out of this world. They feel nothing inside. Versus a bomber, there's like an ideology. Like he thinks something's important enough to maybe try and do it again.
It's like A. Bushnell you were talking about earlier today. He's going to be remembered forever. I'm going to light myself on fire. Nobody cares.
It's an important point. It's the only thing on the left, the only thing they value from young white men is like martyrdom. It's like the only thing you can provide for the left if you're like a young white guy is like suicide for the cause, versus the right. They're just like, yeah, we can use you here. We can use you here. Turning Point USA, we'll get you right in here. It's like clockwork. The left's like, you're going to have to kill yourself, dude. It's the only way to contribute to the movement. And so that's primarily why it's so hard when they join.
I'm compiling a list of politically motivated attacks 2025, and it's already the list that I've got is insane.
Jeez.
This is bleeding Kansas. The crazy thing is, as we were mentioning, like, did you guys even know that in Maine, someone tried running over a CBP agent? Mm-hmm. In Chicago, an illegal immigrant tried running over one of the ICE guys, so he shot him and killed him. I think that happened in Florida like a day later. Mm-hmm. So all of these are happening on top of the political violence that's high level. Then you've got the low-level riot stuff that often doesn't break to national news. You've got the ongoing riots that are happening in Portland that they just started arresting these people. It's been sustained for some time. You had the ramming in New Orleans.
Yep.
Yes, that's right.
That was on New Year's, right, or right around New Year's.
Yeah, and we were going to go.
January 1st.
Oh, really?
That's where we were planning. My wife and I were planning on going to New Orleans. Oof. And at the last minute, we changed our mind and didn't go. And then we saw the news, and we were like, we would literally be right there.
And didn't that one young kid get run over by that old man up in Washington or something in an alleyway because he was a Republican? A couple of years ago, I think remember that he got ran over for being not.
I don't know if it was Washington, but there was a kid that got. It was
up.
Over.
Yeah.
I think the distinction though is like as you were saying before, they're not organized. They seem to be emotional outbursts, which I mean I had myself in the UK where we were putting up the flags. And some guy, literally just some boomer, abandoned his car on the side of the road, came running over and tried pushing us off a ladder that was like, two almost 3 stories high. Luckily, we spotted him and we were able to bail to the right, which was a grass verge, rather than the left, which was a main road. But if he'd have come up from behind, what was his plan? He was going to knock us off. If we hit our head on the road, one of us could have died. He wasn't thinking. It was an irrational, emotional moment. I almost felt sorry for the guy because he got himself so wound up. He's so like stuck in his head and sort of enthralled by this ideology that he feels like it's worth to just like kind of crash out and break that mundaneness of his life up. Like they do see themselves as these revolutionaries, particularly that sort of like boomer generation, which I saw the guy who tried assassinating Trump. I think he was actually, did he get indicted or like charged?
Roth, the Roth, he got 4 counts or something like that.
It's like they grew up in like the 70s where like, they were the counterculture, that hippie culture. They believed the world was going to be John Lennon's Imagine. And it's just like, well, reality check, that it doesn't work. The world's never going to be like that. But in their head, there's still this like they're sticking it to the man. Where actually like the counterculture is coming from the right, particularly in Europe, and it kind of has happened, and now it's become the mainstream.
Imagine,
but again, going back to my previous point, it's not
sad
organized. It's like it's just like it is.
Yeah,
it is this lone wolf, like sad attacks of people who are probably pretty depraved individuals who actually just need help.
Yeah.
But how do you get help to those people? Because they sit and they fester and it's all online.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.